WCET TV 48, Cincinnati, Ohio. Business is brisk for the area's latest premium ice cream shop. A young, fast-growing high-tech firm bases its product on old technology. This week's stock commentary features the Kroger Company. Ideas for small business on stimulating creativity. And selecting computer hardware and software. Those stories and more tonight on Cincinnati Business Weekly.
Major funding for this program is provided by your local Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan.
Carry the caring card.
Now, it's affordable.
Additional funding provided by the Central Trust Company. People with the insight, dedication, and determination to help you and your business get ahead.
Cincinnati Microwave, makers of the Escort radar warning receiver. Escort, the classic of radar warning.
Good evening, I'm Joanne Grutter. Here's a review of what happened in business this week. Conventions played a major role in the area's economy last year, according to the annual report of the Greater Cincinnati Convention and Visitors Bureau. Over 1,100 conventions were held here in 1984, generating an estimated $96 million. This occurred even though attendance at such meetings fell last year, as measured from the year before. The Bureau's report also predicts an upswing in the convention business for the next few years, despite delays in construction and the expansion of Convention Center downtown. The Cincinnati Institute for Small Enterprise gathered this morning for a talk on credit and collection procedures for small business. Too many businesses put collection off till their losses reach a crisis stage, according to Marianne Childress, president of Collectability Plus. Childress warned that all companies should outline a sound collection policy for new accounts, existing accounts, and collection activity.
With new accounts, a company should be looking at a credit guideline that they establish, in addition to standards of getting a good credit application and having it fill out completely and checking all the essentials out on that credit application. A couple of the aspects that companies do not think of at the time of the credit application is a cutoff date for their customer when they will be paid. This is very important. Also, another area would be purchase order numbers. And is the billing address the same as the regular address that is on the credit application?
If you could give one key phrase or a key sentence about collection for small businesses, what would that be?
The time to start is right now. You must outline and do everything you need to do at this present moment. There is no waiting. Small companies deal with limited capital, and knowledge is power. And that's the entire concept behind credit and collections.
No new information is available on the week-long strike at General Electric in Evendale. There are still pickets at the gates, no talks scheduled between management and union, and there's no forecast on changes for tomorrow. GE's Public Information Officer William Black says some production is being done.
Because the UAW Local 647, which is the production workers union, is on strike, why most of the production has been shut down. There is some work being done, however, by supervisors and by others, salaried employees who are experienced in working in the shop.
United Auto Workers representatives say they're striking over unresolved grievances and component subcontracting. It's suitable for framing, Cincinnati art that is, and one local company thinks more people should see the quantity and quality of art produced in the city. The Frame Factory is assembling what it hopes will be the largest display of Cincinnati promotional posters, photographs, and prints. To further promote local commercial and fine art, the company has been donating framed pieces to local charities and nonprofit organizations. The Frame Factory is counting on local artists and institutions to help build its unique collection. Cincinnati-based Omnicare, a healthcare services firm, is selling its subsidiary, HPI Healthcare. HPI provides pharmacy management services for over 100 hospitals. The sale will bring Omnicare $35 million. Marshall's will open its 4th area store in early March. Marshall's is the off-price retailer, which operates more than 200 stores nationwide. The new facility is across the street from Northgate Mall. Commissioners from Hamilton, Butler, and Warren counties met this week. They discussed ways to convince General Motors to select a local site for the $3.5 billion Saturn plant. And as senior officials in the Reagan administration said they would recommend that the president let Japanese import quotas end, a retired General Motors president also spoke out against continued protectionism. Elliot Estes, former president of General Motors, told CBW he never favored import quotas.
It seems to me, and I'm sure I'm right, that in the long range we have to be competitive with whoever might put products in the United States and wherever they come from. And we better step up to that and get the job done. So that I personally hope that the quotas come off and that we have real honest worldwide competition without barriers or tariffs or anything else to stop the flow of products in or out of our country.
Estes was in town to speak to area engineers and scientists on the automotive industry's change to flexible automation.
Our industry, as well as many others, are now really in worldwide competition. And in order to meet that competition, both cost-wise, quality-wise, product-wise, and every other way, it's necessary that we really do this, make this big change.
Fashion in Cincinnati stepped beyond the looking glass as the French invention, the magic mirror, made its American debut at Ellis Ayres' Kenwood store this week. Called the Fitting Room of the Future, a shopper steps inside the booth, presses a button, and dresses her mirror image in as many as 10 outfits a minute. While the shopper won't see white rabbits or Mad Hatters in this mirror, she will see how she might look in pieces from Liz Claiborne's spring collection. The Kenwood mirror is one of 3 in the U.S., with the other 2 at Ayres stores in Indianapolis. And now, here's Bill Myers.
Well, you know, there's an old saying about the weather here in Cincinnati. If you don't like it, stay around and it'll change. So, now that the temperatures have climbed and snowbanks are a fading memory, Tom Law offers a look at what was and a business that made an icy debut.
Weather-wise, it was not a typical January. The average temperature for the month was about 22 degrees. That's 6 degrees below normal for this time of year. Greater Cincinnati was deluged with 12.2 inches of snow, and from all indications, February doesn't look any better. The Cincinnati Highway Department sprayed 13,000 tons of salt on icy city streets. Sales of snow shovels, ice scrapers, jumper cables, and snow blowers were, well, as brisk as the weather. But what about the sale of ice cream?
We're hoping to open somewhere in the early spring or in the winter area because it's the slowest time of the year for ice cream. And it would give us a chance to really work the kinks out, get all the employees up to speed, make our mistakes when things are slow rather than to make them in the busiest time of the year, in the summer, when a mistake may hurt your business. Right now, we're, trying to get our act together with as little of the outside interference as we can.
The Act is San Moritz, an ice cream parlor started by Steve and Sarah Steinman. Both were surprised with the amount of business they've been doing in spite of the weather.
We've been overflowing on a couple of weekends so far, and weekdays have been strong too. So we're probably doing the business right now that we expected in the spring. And so we're not sure what to expect this spring and summer.
Some people may think Cincinnati is oversaturated with ice cream parlors, many with fiercely dedicated followings. How do the Steinmans plan to compete?
What we really wanted to emphasize was the fact that we make all our flavors fresh. For instance, the fruit flavors, we use all fresh fruits, strawberry, banana, nothing added. So we want to get flavors that we can do that with and that we're happy with the end result. For instance, when we make our mint chocolate chip, it won't be green. We won't add any green food coloring to it, so it won't be green like most mint flavors are. We're just going to keep it as natural as we possibly can without anything artificially added to it.
What we're selling is a product that is as little air as you can possibly get into the product. We make what is called a French pot ice cream with an imported European equipment, which puts us even a cut above even premiums or super premium ice creams. But a pint of ours is comparable in weight and in amount of real ice cream in it to a quart of commercial ice cream.
And the name San Moritz? Well, the Steinmans say they wanted a name that sounded like their product, cold and rich. For Cincinnati Business Weekly, I'm Tom Law.
Hello, I'm Nolan Moore from Alexander Grant & Company. Last week we talked to you about how to get started in selecting your computer. We're now going to speak to you about the important process of selecting the software and the hardware. The first step is the selection of software. The selecting of the software is a process of matching the capabilities of the software product to your own requirements. If it can't do it the way you need to have it done for your business, then it's the wrong software product. The next is a selection of the hardware. Usually this is where people start. Quite honestly, this is where you finish. The software, in most instances, will dictate the kind of hardware that you should buy. Most of the name brands in the smaller computer market are pretty decent these days. Sizes, volumes, transaction load, as we sometimes call it, is what dictates the size of the computer. Have all of these facts and figures ready when you're talking to the computer salesman. Training in how to operate the computer, training in the operation and utilization of the software is vital. Self-instruction manuals normally don't get the job done. Businesses have failed because people have not operated their computers properly. To sum up, software is key. Match it to your requirements. The hardware will be dictated by the software, and don't forget the training. One final point. The computer is a resource to be managed. Manage it closely as you would any other business resource. I'm Nolan Moore of Alexander Grant & Company for the Cincinnati Business Weekly Small Business Project.
What are your concerns for your small business? Let us know and we'll try to address them here on the Small Business Project. Write to CBW Small Business Project, WCET, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45214. Businesses sometimes need employees who are innovative in coming up with solutions to problems, but creativity can't appear upon command. At least scientists haven't uncovered methods to control or improve creative ability. There are, however, clues. Dr. George Gore, Department of Management in UC's College of Business Administration, conducted a survey of management consultants, and he asked them which environmental qualities they thought were favorable to creativity. The CBW talked with Professor Gore about that survey and the results that can be applied to business.
What can you draw, what conclusions can you draw from that survey that we could apply to the more structured business?
The problem with most businesses, as we say, have to be in a pattern such that they can interrelate with other businesses. Therefore, the timing is a constraint upon the operation of the people within that business. One of the things, the most important thing actually that came out of our survey was the fact that people who are engaged in creative type work want to have a time freedom. They want to do the kind of work that they do when they want to do it. And actually, as it turned out, the most frequent times mentioned were very early in the morning or very late at night. Now, obviously, these are not the times when businesses are open or when they're going to be doing their kind of thing necessarily. So if you do have creative type people and a creative type activity within your business, then it would behoove that business to see to it that those people involved in it have access to their facilities whenever they want to.
Are there any other areas in which a person feels he or she is more creative?
Well, time was the most important factor. The second one was clothing. The fact that people wanted to be in a comfortable position. And sometimes they felt constrained in the normal business uniform where a man goes out probably in a shirt and tie and suit, such as I have, or a woman and is dressed for business in that sense. This is not uncomfortable to you because you do it every day, but it's not as comfortable, say, as if I were engaged in some of my type of consulting at home, which is where I like to do it. Then I would be in a sweatshirt, a pair of slacks, a pair of loafers. I would have probably some light music in the background. As indicated by the survey, for example, many people like to do their creative work when it's raining. For some reason or other, that puts an atmospheric condition, perhaps, on them, and so therefore we have time, we have comfortable clothing, we have other physical types of conditions. They like a normal temperature, they like fresh air, a sense of quiet, a sense of not being disturbed. If they could, they would like to have all the telephones shut off. They would like to have, as I say, a private office, a non-disturbing atmosphere, basically.
Are businesses providing this type of atmosphere or any similar types of atmosphere to the people who need to be creative within their organization? Are businesses providing that right now?
I have some concern about this from the standpoint of the architectural people who design new structures for companies. You see very frequently in offices these days, instead of the massive number of desks sitting row on row, you see these partitions, the 6-foot, 7-foot high partitions that separate one unit from another to give an element of privacy to each individual. In that sense, perhaps they are being responsive. But in other areas, I think that the architects are too interested in pleasant designs, almost a bank lobby type of design, rather than the work function that is taking place. Usually a good architect will be working with the industrial engineers, with the behavioral science people to create that kind of atmosphere that is most conducive within the constraints of the business itself. So in answer to the question, I think, yes, they are being responsive, but not nearly as much so as I think they should be.
So we could increase productivity, essentially, in those areas if we could provide those.
Very definitely. I definitely think so.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Yes, sir.
This week's stock commentary is provided by Merrill Lynch and covers the Kroger Company. The Kroger Company, as a result of the January 1983 merger with Dillon Companies, has become the largest operator of supermarkets in the United States. As of December 29, 1984, the company operated over 1,300 supermarkets. Kroger backs up its stores with broad food manufacturing and processing capabilities. Kroger also operates one of the largest drugstore chains with over 600 Super X stores open at the end of the year. For all of 1984, Kroger's sales rose 4.5% to almost $16 billion. Net income advanced over 23%, and earnings rose 26%. The turnaround in the company's operations was attributed to improved operating conditions in 1984 and from more productive and profitable results in all retailing segments of the business. Management was particularly pleased with continued good results in Kroger's large food combination stores and with Dillon Companies, which again exceeded expectations. Incorporating a 3 to 3.5% food price inflation assumption, Merrill Lynch expects full year 1985 sales to increase 6 to 7% to around $17 billion. Merrill Lynch looks for gross margins to be maintained in 1985 and feels the expense ratio could decline. Assuming only a minor year-to-year change in interest expense and other income, Kroger is expected to report above-trend profits in 1985, and earnings are estimated within a range of $4.40 to $4.60 per share. Well-controlled costs on satisfactory sales gains will provide a leveraged effect on profits, and the reestablishment of favorable earnings trend with annual earnings growth of 13% or better. Therefore, Merrill Lynch's reasons for investing in Kroger are: the merger of Dillon Companies has created a stronger, broader-based, higher-growth company. Earnings comparisons should improve for 1985 and beyond. The company is a successful advocate of the superstore concept, and the stock sells at a discount from the market multiple of 1985 earnings. At the present time, Merrill Lynch is not at liberty to comment about the recent agreement of Kroger to acquire Hook Drugs, since the merger is not complete. At the bell today, Kroger closed unchanged at 38 5/8. The marriage of old chemistry and new electronics is proving quite successful and profitable for one local company. Here's our report.
We think we're sitting on something very, very exciting. We know we are.
And that's Robert Bidwell's conservative opinion. Bidwell is chairman of Angstrom Technologies Incorporated, and he's talking about photomolecular control technology. Very simply, with this technology, Angstrom can put a non-visible mark on anything and use a scanning system to detect the energy impulse given off by the mark. Remember when a black light was used to detect invisible ink? That's the older technology, called fluorescent chemistry, used by Angstrom's parent company, Natmar Incorporated, to mark textile products.
It was from this initial technology of taking chemistry that was developed in 1920 and incorporating state-of-the-art electronics and optics to pick those signals up, give a signal back out that could be used by a machine or an operator on a packaging line or a robot for guidance.
William McGinnis is president and chief executive officer of Angstrom Technologies and the engineer who developed the technology prototype. While the potential for this technology is extensive, Natmar was forced to realize that it could not raise the capital necessary for research and development.
When you go to the investment community, and particularly over the last 20 or 30 years, they're interested in what kind of romance you can bring to it, so they in turn can bring it to their customers. Laundry marking machinery didn't really excite anybody. On the other hand, the inherent high technology characteristics of the chemistry was exciting. And we had to confront the very real possibility, or the very real challenge, of taking it out of Natmar and creating a separate company. And that made all the sense in the world.
Seed money was raised locally. It allowed Angstrom to incorporate in mid-1983 with 3 employees and all non-visible chemical rights from Natmar. A year later, Angstrom finally was able to go public, raising over $2 million through stock sales. But the time spent waiting for Securities and Exchange Commission approval to go public was not spent twiddling thumbs.
We have developed in the last year 10 patents. We've developed 7 products in the last 6 weeks that we've released.
And the company grew to 25 employees. Papers on the technology were published, and 1 new product announcement went out in the fall of 1983.
We've been selling GM and Ford since 1981. We picked up Ross Laboratories in 1982. Since then, in 83 and 84, we've picked up several other large Fortune 500 corporations, Eli Lilly, Delco Laboratories, or Delco Ramey Batteries, and so on.
And all this was done without publicity or advertising. What drew these companies to Angstrom? In Angstrom's process, the chemical can be applied to a product or contained within the paper stock of a product or label. A scanner, in this case the recently released Alpha 101 series, can be used for assembly lines, high-speed packaging, or product quality control. Senior Applications Engineer Thomas Poe shows how it works.
Ross Laboratories, manufacturers of Similac and other infant baby food formulas, had a problem with Similac with iron and Similac with, without iron and other types being mixed into the one case that they would ship out to their groceries. So to eliminate that problem with intermingling of different products in one case, they overprint a non-visible varnish that has an Angstrom non-visible compound in it, and they actually overprint it at different locations and heights on the Similac can. So when the product is fed into a main conveyor line, they have units, scanner units that actually detect these marks at the different locations, and then they push off the product to its proper packaging area.
The product can be found on the GM and Ford tire valves and tires, on Delco Ramey batteries, on Topol toothpaste, on Royal gelatin, on cake mixes, on Similac from Ross Laboratory, to name a few of the common things. In 1984, we sold only $183,000 worth of product. We fully expect, now that we are no longer a development company, but going into production as of this month and going into a marketing effort as of this month, we fully expect in this quarter, ending on March 31st, to exceed 1984 sales. Our anticipation is somewhere between $5 and $6 million in sales.
McGinnis says over 30% of sales income will be targeted for research.
In our research area, we're working on a binary scanner, which has the ability of robot vision, automatic guided vehicle guidance, similar to a UPC code, only it's non-visible. The consumer does not see it. It doesn't clutter up a label, plus it has a higher reliability.
Is Angstrom the only manufacturer of this technology in the nation?
It's the only manufacturer of this technology worldwide at this point. We have no direct competition from any other source worldwide at this point. We fully expect to have competition in our field.
So now you can see why Robert Bidwell is optimistic about Angstrom Technologies Incorporated.
We are extremely excited about the response that we've had so far from big companies, Fortune 500 companies. You know, the list of customers and the list of products that we've had are well known and well publicized. There hasn't been one single major customer yet who has said to us, we tried it, doesn't work. No, where it's going to go. I threw my crystal ball away years ago, told me lies. We're very optimistic and very enthused about it.
There are other Angstrom customers you won't hear about. Those are the companies and governments who use this technology for security, documents, and anti-counterfeiting devices. And Angstrom, which is traded on the NASDAQ exchange, closed today unchanged at 1 5/8.
And on Friday, March 1st, CBW will focus on the growing satellite receiver business, show you a group of specialists who bring a team approach to commercial and industrial real estate, and open up to you the Greater Cincinnati Directory of Women in Business and the Professions. We hope you'll join us.
For Bill, Tom, and all of us at Cincinnati Business Weekly, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Major funding for this program is provided by your local Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan.
Carry the caring card.
Now, it's affordable.
Additional funding provided by the Central Trust Company. People with the insight, dedication, and determination to help you and your business get ahead.
Cincinnati Microwave, makers of the Passport radar receiver. Passport, pocket-sized radar protection.
Cincinnati Business Weekly repeats on WCET Sunday evening at 6:30.